Hey gang, Kevin here, and we're doing one of them late night podcasts. But it's been a long time coming because I actually realized that I had done an interview back in May that was released in June, or it was in June and I released it in July, and it was with Mr. Rick Walker, who ran for governor against Dan Crenshaw. I believe it was 2016. Anyways, I interviewed Rick, and phenomenal guy. I like his book. It was very good. I read his book. I got an early release of it. We discussed it in our interview podcast, which was released back a while ago, and you can check that out on the channel. I knew I needed to review it, and I hadn't actually done a formal review because I did the interview, and, life happens. And so I ended up just also buying it on Audible because it's just the easier way for me to listen to it. So I ended up listening to the book for the second time, and I had just recently finished it. And before it got too far out of my memory, I needed to do, I finished it I think I finished it on my drive out to Connecticut for Thanksgiving. So, so we're like a week. But I still have notes and like screenshots of things that I had read when we did the actual book review. Like when I was actually like listening to it. And then, so I had to take, it was one of those things. You take the PDF that they send you and you listen to it in their like audio reader. It's like, yeah, you can read the digital form. I had a hard copy. I still have a hard copy. I believe it's up on my mantle with all my other hard copies. And, but it was one of those things I just hadn't gotten around to actually reviewing the book. So that's what we're doing today, guys. So his book is 9 Steps to Build a Life of Meaning. I've got it pulled up on Audible just so I can give like some chapters and stuff like that. There's an accompanying PDF, so if you get it on Audible, highly recommend doing the Audible version. It's just so much easier with people on the go, people in my generation. You know what I mean? Like you're just boom, boom, boom. Especially if you're a go-getter. If you're just like at home and you just, you know what I mean? Like you don't have as much going on as somebody like Kevin, then listen to the book in your own head as you read it. So, but it's 9 Steps to Build a Life of Meaning. And if you have the audiobook, it is a 6 hour and 51 minute listen on normal speed. It is, it's made up of a bunch of chapters where he kind of describes where he came from, just like how he came to be. And that's as the introduction goes. As the book starts, there are, I believe, if I remember correctly, he starts the foreword with him being in a group of people that he sat on a board with, and like some people that were amongst his circle had been kidnapped by like terrorists, and they like sent the video to them with, I think it was a cut off ear or a thumb or something like that. And then like the video was him being beheaded, and it was like, whoa, like, and he's like, yeah, there's really terrible people in this world, and you need to figure out where you stand in this world. And that is a lot of what the book is about. It is self-help, self-betterment, choice making, decision making. He lays out 9 steps. I do like his approach. I'm not going to say that the 9 steps are for me or for you, but like at least listening to them, taking them in, and you can make those choices. And a lot of times, a lot of choices in life, the better choices are the harder choices, and it's not always the path. What was it? The path of least resistance is not always the path worth taking. Because the life we're not worth fighting for is not life not worth living. I mean, we're going down a whole road of cliches here. So, he gets me. I think it was, I believe it was in the first chapter. The GQ parties. Okay, so he introduces himself. He introduces arbitrage in the introduction, and how he also introduces his book structure. But he talks about arbitrage and how like him and his father would buy like old watches and gussy them up and then sell them to somebody who would pay more for the watch. And that was his, that is the arbitrage, right? To find that hidden value that other people didn't see, right? Like, so one man's treasure is another man, or one man's trash is another man's treasure. Something along those lines is the best way I can describe it. Late night podcast with late night coffee. Step one, choose a worthy enemy, right? So he goes through, and if you don't have an enemy, what are you facing? You need something to give you resistance in the world, and everyone needs an enemy. And inevitably you find an enemy, right? Like if you listen to politics all day, eventually it's like, oh, it's the left, oh, it's the right, oh, it's that Trump guy, oh, it's this, it's that. And your body automatically makes an enemy. So since it's naturally ingrained in you, it's better to pick an enemy. And choose one that's worthy. Like, do not just pick easy ones because it's easy, right? Like, you don't want to be that jerk, that bully, because then you become your own enemy, right? Like, you're just the guy that just picks on everybody, picks on all the easy battles, picks on all the, it's like, yeah, like, oh, I want to win a fight. How do I win a fight? Oh, I'm going to pick one with a 9-year-old, because I get beat up a 9-year-old. Like, well, yeah. Well, what's the point of the fight then? Why did you pick that as an enemy? Because you're just being lazy. And, you got to pick a worthy enemy. And then he kind of gets to, GQ parties and, let's see here, life's balance. He teaches lessons, the theory, how love conquers hate. He has a lot of quotes and things in biblical passages. He follows, so he uses recent examples of people that he likes, like Dan Crenshaw, right? He respects Dan Crenshaw. He respects Dr. Ben Carson. So he references them quite a bit in the book. Dan does his foreword. So it wasn't his foreword, yeah. So Dan does the foreword for the book. I'm trying to think what he references. George Washington. See, I should have done this last week. And Alexander the Great. He brings them up quite a bit. He brings up a lot of the art in the front of the book, which now everyone's going to yell at me because I don't remember the art in the front of the book. It was they even described it in the book. Perfect. This is turning out to be. But I also do a lot of stuff unscripted, so that's Kevin for you. That's also what the extra text describes. It talks about all the different things like the artwork that he does. His a lot of Greek references. Him. What is it? It's not Zeus. It's Archimedes or somebody striking down the Hydra. Oh, it's Hercules. He's got me. I can't retain everything all the time, but he does a lot of these deep references, and he just really goes down a deep path on a lot of these different topics, and he spent a lot of time doing it. Now, are you going to follow him down those paths? Maybe. Did he go down that path so you don't have to? Maybe. And that's, it definitely is worth a listen. It gives you some perspective. He kind of talks about, he brings it back to that value that you should be finding in your life. And he also brings up a lot of mistakes he had, in his, I think I can rule the world, and he runs against, he runs in a congressional race, and he bets everything on it. And then there's, again, he loses. And now he's made to be like a laughingstock. And how does he face his wife and kids, who he's had to be kind of on the road away from for 11 months? And it's this path that almost led him to a divorce, and his reawakening into, the man that he is and the man that he should be. And I mean, this book almost conveys his life stories. Would he do things differently? Probably not. because it made him the man that he is. But hopefully his story can help you become that man now without having to make the same mistakes, right? But we all are on a journey, and we all have to make our own mistakes. So maybe you see his mistakes and you don't make the same ones, but at the same time you are going to make some mistakes, and then you are going to have those, and those will be part of your autobiography. But that said, so step 1 is picking a worthy enemy. Step 2 is to aim high. Aiming low is the only sin. So, yeah, because if you just like, well, like we just talked about, like go beat up 9-year-old, you got it. You have to pick a worthy enemy. So he's kind of compounding on his first step, but also giving you a little guidance into the next, right? So he gives additional. He talks about Alexander the Great quite a bit in this portion of the book. The theory on who are you becoming, the wisest minds, and then your next moves. Step 3 is pick a master, or one will be thrust upon you. So you have to serve something, right? Isn't that the old adage? And so that's kind of what he's getting at, is you have to have a master. You have to serve something. You need a purpose, right? So what is your purpose? What is it you are serving? Or are you just doom scrolling? And now you are just a slave to the doom scroll, to the algorithm, right? Like, boom, he talks about that too. He talks about getting his life in order, eating healthier. He had some health scares. He does runs. He focuses. He needs to get up early. The greatest of the greats get up early. What does he do? He makes those tough decisions. He doesn't want to have to like easily hit the snooze button on his alarm, so he like puts it on blast like 2 closets away. Now, if I tried that, I would get up. And that's my issue now. Like, I set an alarm for 4:30. I try to my best to get up at 4:30. Some days I do it. Some days it's like 6:30. And that's the absolute latest that I'll get up. But my goal is 4:30. And I have the same problem. And I reach over and I'm like, you know what? My wife will get pissed. And then I'll wait for her to beat me out of bed. Like, not like race me out of bed, but like, stop waking me up. God damn you. And that's how I do it. And I know I shouldn't. And I know that it doesn't happen, that it's exaggerated. But in the back of my head, that is my thought process. Like, I'll stay in bed as long as she is not getting angry with me for not getting up. And that's kind of like, that's my scapegoat. And that's a problem that I have. He buries his phone in another room. And so he has to actually like shut the damn thing off. I know that just the distance between my bed and wherever the hell I have to put my phone so it shuts the hell up will wake my wife up, and I'll be in way more trouble, and I just couldn't pull it off. I would have to like live in a new house, away from my family, which as a responsible adult male, that is my responsibility to not live in another house. But those are the different things that he talks about in addition to, so like you have a master that'll be, or one will be thrust upon you. Is your master, it doesn't have to be a physical, it's not a person, right? It is a manifestation of something, some greater purpose that you are serving. To some people it is God, right? To some people it must only be God, right? And some people it is like, well, it is being the greatest father I can be. It is to fatherhood that I am, that is my one and only master. And then by a byproduct of that, you are an amazing husband, and you are this and you are that, and there's a subset of like that master's will, right? And that's kind of what he's getting into, to break it down into a simpler term, because that's what happens. Like, if you don't have a focus, if you don't have a goal, it's just whatever. Like, why would you, like, everyone, when you say, and Jordan Peterson brings this up too, like, if you ever have phenomenal amounts of freedom, you have these great, you're like, oh, I have the freedom to do whatever I want. And then it's like, okay, well, if you could do whatever you want, what would you do? And people are like, duh. They have no idea. They don't know. They don't want all these choices. They need some sort of structure, right? The same thing with freedom. Like, people are just like, oh, I'm free. I'm free to do whatever I want. And it's like, you still have a duty, though. You have a duty to those freedoms. You don't just get freedom. You have a duty to defend it. You have a duty to stand up for it. You have a duty to, family, God, and country. Like, you don't just get these freedoms. You can do whatever you want. You can forsake it all, like, because then your freedom is worth nothing. And that is another rabbit hole we're going down. But it is very similar to the topic at hand. Step 4, trust. Revelation requires sacrifice. So, the fast, my 7-day sacrifice, the exam, I was stabbed in the neck, the art of the miracle, a rap moment. So he gets an Agamemnon. The past must be sacrificed. Your past must be sacrificed. Tainted sacrifices, our rash vows, a bigger problem, my mental fog. So something's got to give. Sacrificing 90% of my net worth. And he does talk about that quite a bit. Is donating to charity. You can't just give falsely, right? Like, there's that Christian philosophy that, like, you give a man like $10 who is needy for nothing in return. And then, God will reward you like tenfold. The problem is, if you're giving that $10 expecting to get it tenfold, then you will never get tenfold. You won't even come close. You may even be another negative 10, because it's the fact that you're giving it not expecting it. That is the true purpose of the giving. And so a lot of people miss that point. They're just like, oh, if that's how it works, you just keep giving and giving and giving, eventually you'll get paid forward. Sure, and if you can think that way, but to be like also expecting it, like, you should do it knowing that someday it may come back to you, but may being a critique, a pivotal point there in our teeter-totter. But yeah. Let's see here. Step 5. No joy requires pain. Like, so have knowledge that joy requires pain. Okay. And then he introduces art, which is in the follow-up and or pictures in the book, if you get the hard copy. So if you want to get joy, like if you ever listen to anybody talk about marriage, right? Everyone's like, oh, marriage is terrible. Marriage is terrible. Like, no, because you don't understand marriage. And then people are like, the people that you talk to that are actually happy, they're like, no, marriage is the best thing ever. Marriage is the best thing ever. And it's just like kids, raising kids. You get people that, oh, kids are terrible. Like, no, kids are not terrible. Kids are the best thing ever too. And so you have these two things that are very great in life, and they all require sacrifice and hardship. Marriage isn't easy. It is something you have to work at every single day. Every single day, you need to work at your marriage. And if you don't work at it and you ignore it, it falls apart. It is like a house. It is a house. It is both the physical the house is a physical manifestation of your home, which is brought together. It is the physical thing that you live in, right? That you make home, that you nest in. But as part of that, you are building that with somebody else that is making that nest so that you can raise your robins in it, so that you can raise them to be good adults in the future. But you have to work at that, and you have to work at raising those little robins, and you have to work at this, and you have to work at that, and you have to work at it. You have to work at it. And that is painful. That is painful. It's a struggle, man. It's a struggle every single day, day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out. And you can't just look at that and say, no, there's got to be an easier way. There isn't. There isn't. That is a toil that you pick, and in return, you get some of the greatest joy of being a significant other, to being a spouse, to being a husband, to being a wife, to being a father, to being a mother. All those things come from that toil, day in and day out. The sacrifice, you know, I sacrifice time with away from my kids so that I can provide them good education, you know, happy Christmases, a roof over their head, heat on cold days, you know, money to repair the roof when it's not around. I wish I could give back that sacrifice and just have a sack of money, but it doesn't work that way. You have to sacrifice that. So it is about having a giant pie that you have to divvy your day up into, and then still fighting amongst that to allocate time to spend with family, to spend with kids, to spend with your significant other. And it is work, and it is painful, and with joy comes pain. And that is what he's getting at with this portion of the step. We're down to the last four, guys. Embrace the unknown. Trends don't matter. How to build a life that matters. Tchaikovsky and the Swans. He's talking about Swan Lake. Love requires vulnerability. So with that, like, with everything in life, there is risk, right? You want to start a business, it's risk. You don't know what's going to happen. Well, should I spend my money or should I save it? Well, if I spend it, then I won't have it tomorrow to pay a bill that might come up. But your fear of not spending that money, scared money don't make money, as a great philosopher once said. And if you're too afraid to take that risk, that could also be your demise. You have to embrace that unknown, that risk, in order to move forward and find greatness, right? Like, imagine like the great adventurers of the world, Magellan, you know, Christopher Columbus, all these people that came to other places, you know, like a lot of people that went alongside of them, along with them, had their own separate journeys, didn't make it. They died. They got killed in the quest for adventure, in the quest for conquering the unknown, for finding the unknown, to explore the unknown. And you have to embrace it, because otherwise, then what's the point? What's the point? You got to go forward. You can't just sit there and be afraid to go forward because you're afraid of going forward. It's not. Yeah. So embrace the unknown. Step 6. Step 7, give away what you want to keep. The problem. Relevance and power. Washington and Carson. Slamming the tyranny. Command unveils character. The law of C.S. Lewis. The next move. Defriction. Safety or meaning. Never both. So, we've all heard the cliche. If you love something, set it free. If it comes back to you, hang on and hold it and love it forever. Essentially, that's what he's saying. Like, don't. And I think I briefly touched on this earlier when I said, like, you give away your wealth, give away that, because it will be given back to you. Do not expect it to be given back to you. It may never be given back to you. But you have to strip yourself of these material wants and like things like that are holding you back and out of your way. You may want to keep it. You may be impulsified to keep certain things, but just know that is just holding you back from being, you know, the person you're supposed to be. Act like you will live forever. The problem. What is a step? Historical Einstein's theory. Imagining space-time. Analogy of the sun, defeated by the story. The greatest duty of any man. I think that was the part that I enjoyed. A real girl's more than a fake father. Next moves. So he talks about some real, like, deep topics here in this. And I believe this is the one where he talks about his daughter. Act like you will live forever. So, right, like, don't, don't just sit there and be fearful about moving forward and dying and things like that. But he also describes being a father in this one. Bent knees remake bent hearts. So I screenshotted a bunch of quotes that I really enjoyed from this. Okay. This is at the beginning of the book, though. So this is one where he describes. So I've got an excerpt here. Only a weak man cannot hate. He, therefore, can never really love. Sometimes our enemies are easy to identify, like that father defending his daughter. But more often, enemies hide beneath the surface. Like a tumor, the deepest foes are often a piece of us. Like my fear of rejection in college to ask that freshman girl out, or our fears to make us miss out on life and love. So now, okay, so that's page 28. Okay, so he describes a father this love is motivated. Okay. There was a great example he gave in this book. And now I'm drawing a blank on where it was. There's a man that murdered somebody to protect his daughter. He was found guilty. And he goes, if I was that father, I've done the same thing. And if you are a father out there, you should be accepting of that, right? Like, how can you, as a father, not do you? And I'm sure a lot of us have heard these stories, right? Like, there's a guy running for like county sheriff in like Virginia, I believe it's Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, something like that. He was all over the news a couple months ago, and he followed this guy who had molested his daughter, and he went and got his daughter back, and then he murdered the guy. And the law did nothing. And sometimes you have to remember that, what's more important to you, right? Like your daughter, or making sure that you don't violate some man-given law, right? Like, and that's, and he justifies that in here, and I don't blame him for justifying that, and I can't disagree with him that if somebody were doing something terrible to one of my children, that I wouldn't do the same thing that this father he describes in the book does. And I mean, he doesn't describe it in great detail. I can't remember. I knew that yeah, see, that's why I took a lot of these different portions from the book. Yeah. Anyways, there's a he took this portion from the book, and he did a I'm sorry. Yeah, anyways, it was a great it was just something that like you hear about and nobody ever like really speaks about. They don't say, "Hey, I would do the same thing." It's always like, "Ooh, that's tragic. That's terrible that father did that." Like, no, it's terrible that we let child molesters on the loose. It's terrible that we let all these things happen, and that there's not enough true men out there that are willing to go defend their children and go enact justice, right? And there sometimes is a fine line, and we've described it maybe on the channel, but sometimes you have to do certain things. There are, what's it, the Cain and Abel story, right? Like if all the descendants of one were going to exact justice, then you get blood libels, and to prevent that, the justice system comes in order, and that is like, God has marked Abel for killing Cain, or Cain for killing Abel, and so he's a marked man. So you shall not touch him, because he's already being punished, right? So that kind of takes the part out where he is. You get a feud, right? You get that blood libel that goes for generations, right? That kind of puts an end to it, because, like, listen, as a third party is stepping in to handle this, and sometimes you get to that borderline where it's like, that thing is our system of laws and justice, and when it fails, the only thing that remains is still to do that which is right, which is to seek justice. And so he kind of opens the door a little bit to that in this book. So act like you'll live forever, and then step 9, seek beauty and you may find truth. And then he talks about all I was blind, now I see, sometimes I wander, sometimes wandering is prayer. What is maximal love? A magical living canvas. He talks about Rembrandt, love and virtue, financial evolution. What are your next moves? And he describes his family. Epilogue. He does an epilogue. Alexander in Samaria. He does exclusive bonuses, acknowledgments, and then his end credits. But yeah, there was just a lot of just different quotes throughout the book. What looks beautiful, really beautiful, is also right, which is Vincent van Gogh, quote from him. However, just as a single color painted is not beautiful, a perfect risk-free life can never be powerful. I believe that's a quote from him. And I just there was just tons of it when I was listening to it the first time, just took screenshots on my phone just so I had it. Why am I threatened by powerless people that I will never meet? But no, it is always greater to make your enemies willingly fight for you than to destroy them in the Machiavellian and Sun Tzu sense. Just victory arises through loss. There's just tons of great lines in this. He spent a lot of time on this, years, I believe, writing this book, and reflection and just time. And books are a lot of work. But getting to actually meet Rick was an all around good experience. Just an insight into the mind that wrote the book after you read it, and then going through and then like actually getting to ask him questions and stuff like that. So I highly recommend listening to the book, coming back, listening to this podcast and be like, Kevin, you're not even doing it justice. And then going and listening to the interview where it was still fresh in my mind and I still like just did it. I got through it or almost through it to do the interview with Rick and have questions for him and having all that fresh in my mind. And so highly recommended. Go out there, get a copy of the book. It's at you can find it at rickwalker.com. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Audible. And pretty much anywhere books are sold, I believe. So with that, guys, we'll catch you tomorrow on Life 22.